This is a quick overview of HarmonyBuilder. When you download it and install it for the first time, you'll be presented with this screen here. And this will be a 28-day trial. After 28 days, the main functionalities will expire. So the purpose of this program is to create harmonic progressions in 4 parts that observe all the rules of harmony. So it's ideal for creating 4-part chorales and any type of complex harmonic composition in 4 parts. The first thing we can do is to choose the key and the time signature and add any number of empty bars. Let's say 3. And next we can insert a chord progression using one of 2 tools. Either we can use a chord grid, which is here, and this gives a selection of all the chords present in the major and harmonic minor scales in all 12 keys. We can select the chords individually just by clicking on them and then adding them to the score. And once a chord is selected, we will also get a set of highlighted chords, and these are suggested chords that will follow on well from the selected chord. So if we follow those suggestions, we'll always get good harmonic progressions in terms of the functional harmony. The logic behind that selection of chords is described in another video in the tutorial page. We can continue composing in this way until we have a chord progression. The next step is to check that the chord progression respects the rules of harmony. In other words, that the voice leading is correct. And to do that, we can go to the checker panel and activate all the rules of harmony. And each rule is described in depth in the user manual if you go to the section called Rules. Once you've applied the rules, you can navigate through the score, and any rules that are broken will be shown with appropriate colors. You can then make the adjustments to the chord in order to correct the rules. But usually correcting one rule breaks another rule, so it gets quite complicated. So if you want a way to generate the chords without breaking any rules, you can use the Builder panel. And what the Builder panel does is it actually only generates chords that observe all the rules that you've inserted in the checker panel. So for example, if we're going from this 1 chord to this 7 chord in first inversion, we can select the 7 in the chord selector panel and then look for solutions by clicking Find. And once we have solutions, we can select the one that suits our purposes best. We can also follow the suggestions that the chord selector gives us for the chords that follow the ones we insert. So after a 7 chord, it's best to go to either a 1 or a 6 chord. So if I select 1, for example, and I choose my inversion and my choice. Choices, by the way, decides which notes are doubled, whether it's the 5th or the 3rd or the root, triple root in this case. And we can then select a chord and add it to the score. So the Choose Next Chord allows us to create perfectly voiced chord progressions. If, on the other hand, we wish to create a melody and then find a harmony for it, then we would use the Set Melody panel. And this allows us to type in a melody into the score. So, for example, if we write in an E here, we can just type in E just by pressing E on the computer keyboard. Alternatively, we can type it in from here. By pressing twice, we change the octave of the note. And now the chord selector will highlight only the chord functions which contain an E. So any of these chords here contain an E. We then have to select the root position, the inversion and the choice, and see if we find some results. Sometimes we have to change the choice or the inversion in order to arrange to have that E in the top of the chord. Sometimes it's quite tricky without breaking some of the rules, so we need to deactivate rules at times to get results. And then we can, when we find a chord, we can enter it. Of course, now we've broken these two rules, so if we actually reinsert the rule checker, we'll get a signal that those two notes are not actually going in the right place. So this will prompt us to maybe select a different chord here, or maybe change the preceding chord. The set bass note is the same principle as the set melody note, except this time we can choose a bass note. So if I want to write maybe an A here, I type in A, and now we get the set of chords that contains an A in the bass, and we can go ahead and enter a chord that contains an A. Once you've completed your chord progression, you can embellish some of the notes by adding embellishments, 16th notes. You can move the notes around. You can add triplets down here. You can tie notes together. And you can enrich your progression that way. Once you've finished your composition, you can save it either to your hard drive, or you can save it to HarmonyGrid, which is an online database, and if you do that, it will go into a database shared with other people who've saved their compositions. And you can also open other people's compositions if you open from HarmonyGrid, and you'll find other people's compositions or music theory or fragments saved to that database. You can also email this score, which means that the recipient will receive an email with a link, and this should open the score inside a browser. Furthermore, you can also add lines or text to the score, and you can purchase an activation key for one of 4 versions. The basic version only contains the chord grid. The educational version also contains the rule checking, and the professional version includes also the builder panel. If you purchase a simpler version and upgrade later, the price you paid before will be discounted from the higher version. And finally, it's worth mentioning that if you save your composition to disk, a MIDI file will automatically be generated as well, and these files can be imported into any other score editor or notation editor, and you could then expand the 4-part composition into much larger orchestrations if you wished. Currently, we're not able to import MIDI into HarmonyBuilder because of the strict necessity to have the parts exactly in 4 separate parts, and unfortunately MIDI files don't always have this exact subdivision of the 4 parts. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned for more videos.